Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 931. My opponent started off with e4 here, and I went with knight f6, the Alekhine's defense. So he pushes on. We get one of the main lines here. He plays the chase variation. You can play d4 first. It doesn't matter if you're going to play with c4 eventually. You can also play that first. I'm going to get a very standard position, and I go d6. You see that's the main move. Immediately setting about to undermine the center. He takes, and now I take back with the c-pawn. You can see that's the second choice here. And it gives, actually it has a slightly better reputation for white than the other line, but it leads to some interesting play here, I think. And then immediately he goes off the beaten track here with g3. So the normal continuation looks like this: knight c3, then g6. So you're almost always fianchettoing this bishop. Bishop e3 to defend the center, bishop g7. Rook c1, castles, b3. So now he's got all these pawns taken care of over here, and I can get in the move e5. So that's one of the ideas of this system, is to get in that e5 push. And play continues from here. If there's a trade and the queens are traded, at least my rook will take back, and I'll have an active piece there. And I've got decent development. White still has a couple of moves, three I guess at least, before white can castle, and I still have a couple of pieces I need to develop on the queen side. So interesting game from here. Anyway, that's not what happened in the game after I went, what was my last move? Back up just a second. Yeah, after I did the c takes, he thought for a while here and then just played g3. So I guess he didn't know the book line and was just improvising. So we can just look at this. We're out of the opening book here, and we never get back in. So I could have played e5 here. It was an option. I wasn't sure about it. It seemed a bit risky to me to play e5 before I've had a chance to castle here. I didn't like the queen trade and my king having to move, but yeah, the chess engine says e5 is fine. Anyway, I went with g3. Or g6 rather, the normal idea. I'm going to put my bishop there and get castled. So he went bishop e3. So we follow kind of along the same lines, although in the other lines, knight c6 is delayed. And maybe it should have been delayed here, because at this point the chess engine likes white a lot. But there's a particular tactic here that maybe not everyone would spot. So can you see how white, there's a little quiz for you, can see how white can exploit this early knight move? Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. So if you thought it must start with d5, then you're correct. It starts with d5. I was calculating this during the game, and I thought, well, it'd be safe to put my knight here. But actually, bishop d4 is a bit awkward. So it's this key move, this bishop d4 move, is the idea I didn't see. But it just pins that knight. And even if I put a bishop here, that bishop is undefended and the knight is still pinned. So, and there's a threat here. So actually I have to play the move f6. Now, turns out this is a playable line for black, but certainly not what I intended to go for. So once again, in this line with c takes d6 instead of e takes d6, I have to avoid the early knight c6. So that's a little opening wrinkle I need to get better at. I'm new at playing this line, so I'm still trying to learn it. Anyway, he didn't spot that or exploit it. He played, I went knight c6 and he went knight to c3 here. So the problems are over, and in fact black is about equal along here. He plays rook to c1, I castle. Yeah, at this point there was no longer a threat of d5, and so at this point the chess engine thinks that black is equalized. So he goes b3, I go d5. d5 is actually a good move, you know, but also once again I could have played e5. That's playable here as well, and maybe more in keeping with this line. But in fact, d5 is the best move in the position. I just need to find the right answer to c5. So there's a tactical response to c5 here. So if you can see, what should black play at this point? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. So it's not knight d7. That's what I played in the game, just moving the knight away. What I hadn't realized is that the knight is shielding my queen's view of that pawn. I'm just losing a pawn there. And yeah, and the knight has no other squares to go to. So I was a little bit incautious. But in fact, if I had searched a little bit harder, I might have been able to find this move, e5. So this is kind of cool. He takes my knight. I take his pawn here. And it's a fork. There's no way of escaping it. I've got the knight and the bishop covering this pawn. So if he takes it, I'll just take back and I'll stay. Well, I'll keep a piece. Keep the equality by getting a piece back. He won a piece. I get a piece back. And with this extra pawn in the center, the chess engine thinks that black is actually much better here. There are other lines, but it always comes out good for black. So that e5 move here after c5. Respond to c5 with e5. Pretty cool. Anyway, I moved my knight to d7. He grabbed the pawn. I played e6 to kick the knight away. Still I had e5, but let's just continue with the game. And then I played knight f6. And this was kind of my last chance. Once again, even after first playing e6, e5 is still kind of okay for black. This is a line where white's a little better, but black has got a playable position with some compensation with knight to d4. And white stays a pawn up. And, well, let's see. This pawn is hanging at the moment. Anyway, the chess engine rated this is only slightly better for white. So basically, a playable position for black. But after knight f6, white is just a pawn up and stays a pawn up for the next part of the game. I don't really have a good way of counteracting that extra pawn. I don't have compensation in this position. Let's see. He went knight f3. I tried knight b4. Tried to get my knight to a good square and blockade. That's how I was trying to generate some compensation. Let's see. I was expecting him to trade, but he kept all the pieces on. Not a bad idea. He just dropped his bishop back. I went bishop d7. I'm going to get my bishop on this diagonal, but he's got plenty of time to defend it with bishop g2. If I go bishop c6 and he castles, so white is out of any danger and just has an extra pawn over here on the queen side. I mean, it is a backwards pawn that I've blockaded, but it's still just a winning position for white. Let's see. So I go rook c8 here. He goes b4. I go a6. I don't want my bishop to be chased away. I was actually expecting him to play a4 here to be followed by b5. He can force the pawns through on the queen side. Might be pretty strong. But he went knight e5. That's not a bad idea either, just putting pressure on that bishop. So I decided to start trading. I wanted to trade this bishop for his bishop rather than giving it up for a knight and leaving him with a good bishop on the long diagonal. So that's why I played this move, knight takes c3. But he could have played knight takes c6. This is okay for white as well. It's rated about the same, so it's not like white did anything wrong, but this gets into a position where the material gets traded down. And white has an extra pawn plus the bishop pair. And, well, I get this blockading knight back, and I don't lose pawns on the queen side. So, you know, I can play on, but I'm still a pawn down, and it's a good endgame for white with the bishop pair. But the way he played is fine, too. He just took the knight and let me take his bishop. And even though I get my queen to d5 with check, which I thought might be helpful in some lines, it was, in fact, as it turned out. But he's still got that same kind of pawn edge here. Let's see. He dropped his knight. Oh, that's my turn. I played knight to e4. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to get my knight into position. So I was thinking of these kinds of ideas as we saw in the game. And he went bishop to a1. And actually, queen to f3 needed to be played here. Bishop to a1 is a mistake. So it has become a position that's a little bit tricky for white. Queen f3, though, does squash all my counterplay. and he should just let me take his bishop. It's just a trade. His queen is defended here by the knight, and so even though I take his bishop, defending my queen, you know, sometimes that's a cute trick that wins a piece, but it doesn't in this case because his queen is adequately defended, so he can just take my knight. So queen f3 was the move there. He went bishop a1. And after bishop a1, there's a tactic for me right here, which I didn't spot, but you might want to pause the video here and see if you can find it. Okay, I'm giving the answer away now. I had to scroll down to make sure. Yeah, I can just take this knight off. And after he takes back, I have this really clever move, knight to d2. That's the idea I didn't see. You know, I didn't want to do that trade during the game. I think I even talked about it because it opened up this line against my queen. But, well, knight d2 is a tricky move, and now the knight is threatening to come in here to f3. So this, let's see, I forget what the rating was here, but I think this is okay for black. So it's a way to undo white's advantage in the game. Maybe get a slight edge. But let's see, he didn't. I didn't spot that. I went rook f to d8, and just centralizing my pieces. He dropped his knight back to f3, so he's all out of danger here. And I tried rook d7. I'm going to just pile up on the backwards d pawn. That's my idea here. He goes queen e2. He's going to pile up on my knight. Go rook d to c7. So I switch my attention to the c file. I'm thinking maybe of pushing the b pawn forward and exploiting the pin here because that rook is under defended at the moment. He brought the other rook over, rook fe1. Sorry, rook fe1. And I went with f5 first to secure this knight because he was threatening to just take it. And then he went rook e to d1. And I went b6, so I wanted to just exploit this. And here he played knight e5. But the idea was if he takes here, I can take. And even though he can push the pawn here, it looks dangerous, but I can escape by taking there with check. And after he takes back, I can take the pawn. So I am a rook up at this line. Got an extra rook there. So I'm just trying to exploit this, but I didn't realize when I played b6, I'm actually opening up this line for his queen to take on a6. Anyway, what he played here, after b6, he played knight e5. And so I just went here with knight g5 because I had spotted this idea with the open diagonal. Now the knight once again is hopping into these squares. Not this square, not f3, because that's covered. And then he played c takes b6, and that loses as we saw. If he plays f3 and just blocks the diagonal, then in fact this is okay for white, but I can keep playing. I can start exchanging pawns over here on this side or do something to protect the a pawn. The strongest move for white is actually anyway, after f3, to sum it up, white is still better, basically a pawn up. But after h4, then white has pretty much a winning position. According to the chess engine, it says I should take the knight, and white should take my knight, and then I have to retreat, and then the queen can grab this pawn over on a6 that I had weakened by playing that b6 move. And now white is 2 pawns up, and I still don't have enough compensation, and the counterplay against his king has been squashed. So that was the key move here. h4 to win, or f3 to just continue playing. But anyway, he played c takes b6, and now there's a nice little mate in 2. The queen is guarding all of the escape squares. The king has to go here, and then when the queen comes in, the king has no escape. So that's how the game ended. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again next time. Bye.